All right, so good morning. We are learning Maseches Yevamos, and we are making excellent progress. Today, God willing, we will finish the 6th chapter of Maseches Yevamos. We are, today's daf is daf Samach Hey. We are on the bottom, about 9 lines up on Samach Dalet Amabet. Let me share my screen. Okay, and so yesterday we introduced the concept of Isha Katlanas, a woman who has a bad history of her husband's dying. Now, I don't think that the Torah is not expecting anything, or the Gemara is not suspecting anything nefarious here, but it's suggesting that maybe there is something going on that somebody else shouldn't marry her. And there was a debate. How many husbands need to die before we say stop marrying people? So the first opinion is Rebbe. Rebbe says that after 2 husbands, that's enough. We say don't. She has a chazaka after even just 2, even though, in public parlance and often understood that a chazaka happens after 3 things. Rebbe says no. Even if you do something twice, that can create a chazaka. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, no, we have a chazaka only after the 3rd husband dies. And we also saw that there was an argument regarding sons that die, God forbid, as a result of their circumcision. So Rebbe says that we stop after 2, while Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, no, we wait until after 3. So we're going to pick up again 9 lines up from the bottom of Samach Dalet Amabet. 3rd word on the line, Bishlama, and we're going to explain, as the Gemara is going to note, its understanding regarding circumcision, but wonder the reason for preventing marriage for the wife. So, Bishlama, it makes sense, Gabi Mila, that we would stop a family from circumcising a 4th or 3rd child after the first 2 have died during the course of circumcision. Ika mishpacha de rafi dama, the ika mishpacha de kamid dama. There are families whose blood is thin and family whose blood is thick, meaning that either it runs, meaning that there's no clotting, or that there is clotting. And so as a result, if in fact there's going to be a problem with clotting in the family, so then we don't want to engage in additional circumcision. Ellen is suing my timer. So that all makes sense. One can understand how a condition can exist within a family, but these men are not related. So why should we stop her from marrying the 3rd man? Because that we're not talking about like where it was a series of Yibum situations. We're talking about 3 unrelated men who marry this woman. So Amrle Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi. So Hachi Amar Avimi Mar Gonaya Mishmei de Rav Huna. So Avimi from Hargrunia said in the name of Rav Huna, Mayan Gorim, that her spring, namely that her the location of intercourse, that is what's causing the problem. Meaning, obviously, it's some aspect of the physical relationship that a husband has with the wife. Namely, this seems to be a suggestion of some kind of STD. The Rav Ashi Amar muzzle going. No, it doesn't have anything to do with any kind of physical malady. She just has terrible luck. So my benai, what's the difference between these 2 opinions? So Ika benai de arsa mate, right? If umate. So if in fact one of the husbands only did erisin, well, according to the one who says it's mazel, that it's only luck, that it's just her fate, well then that one would count against her because that is part of her fate. But if in fact it was based on the opinion of Mayan Gorem, excuse me, that it was a sexually transmitted disease, well, they didn't engage in sexual relations yet. So as a result, excuse me, So as a result, we would not count that relationship against her, because clearly it was another explanation for the death, because they didn't engage in marital relations. Alternatively, if the husband was climbing a tree, and he fell down, and that's why he died, well, again, it doesn't count if we say Ma'ayan Goreim, because obviously in that situation, we know the cause of death. It had nothing to do with the sexually transmitted disease. But when it comes to Rav Ashi's comment of Mazal Goreim, then we would say that it does count against her. And it seems like from a paskening perspective that we do say that that in fact we're concerned, even if it seems like there's a clear alternative explanation. Okay, so now Amrle Rav Yosef Brei de Rava LeRava. So now Rav Yosef taught the son of Rava, whose name was also Rav Yosef. He taught halacha and the following. So by my name Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, told Rava the following. By my name Rav Yosef. I once asked Rav Yosef, who obviously shared the same name. Halacha karebi, is the halacha like Rebbe, namely that we determine a chazaka once there have been 2 times that something has happened, and the answer was v'amar li ein. Yes, in fact, that is the halacha. The halacha is that 2 times causes a chazaka. But then I asked him, halacha k'Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Is a halacha like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who says that we need 3 times 3 repetitions in order to have a chazaka? But Amar li ein, and indeed he told me yes as well for that. So it sounds like he was making fun of me. He was teasing me. So so Rava, his father, tells him, no, that isn't the case. Don't think that he was teasing you. Rather, stamahu pashitlach. Rather, both there are stam mishnas, meaning that there are anonymous mishnas that are consistent with each position. Namely, one of them is our mishnah, because if we go back to our mishnah back, let's see, how far back do we have to go? Back a little while now. We would see that our mishnah, the first opinion of our mishnah, was a stam position. It did not attribute the position to any particular viewpoint. Rather, it just said that if a woman marries 2 times, so then that is going to be a problem. So anyway, so that is the first an explanation as to how it is that in fact the halacha is in fact like both Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. So and how do we distinguish the two? So now Rava explains Nisuin umalkios karebi. When it comes to marriage and lashes, so then the halacha is like Rebbe, that namely that 2 is enough. Stasos b'shor hamuad karabin Shimon ben Gamliel. When it comes to fixed period of bastos of a veses, namely, we'll talk about exactly what it means in a moment, but in connection with nida, we'll say, and when it comes to a shore that is viewed as a one that engages in goring on a regular basis, so then we follow Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who says that you need to have 3 such instances in order to be problematic. So now, so now we're going to give the background to each of the cases, right? So, so here's the Mishnah that I was looking for, right? Is on. Oh no, it doesn't actually. Never mind. I apologize. So it. The implication of our Mishnah was when it said V'rashai hasheni l'she'osima eser shanim, right? That only the second one is allowed to marry her, and the third one is not allowed to marry her because she's already been shown to be a woman that has that doesn't have children. So that was how our Mishnah indicated the fact that the halacha is like Rebbe for with respect to marriage. So let's now break it down. So nisuin hada amra. When it comes to marriage, that's what we said previously, right? Our Mishnah, which doesn't have any opinion, it doesn't name any names. It said it was based on that Mishnah where we said that only the first two husbands get the marriage of 10 years, that we say that a woman's not supposed to remarry after two childless marriages. And so that's like Rebbe, because Rebbe says that two is enough to create a chazaka. Malkios. What about lashes? What's the halacha associated with lashes? So Ditanan, Mishalaka Vishana. If somebody violated a negative commandment that requires lashes, and then they got the lashes Vishana, and then they repeated the violation again, based in Konsino. So look, and now he does it a third time. So based in Konsinosa Osolachipa. So now they put him in effectively a jail. And they feed him barley until his stomach, pops essentially. So the point is that once a person has violated a specific prohibition two times, if he violates it a third time, the two times basically creates a chazaka, and now he's considered a wicked person. And if he violates it a third time, well, then he is deserving of death. And so it's not a formal Torah death, but it's effectively a rabbinically imposed death because of his violations of the Torah. So that's the story with marriage and with lashes. And so both of those instances, we say that two is enough to create a chazaka. What about the situations that we require three? So vastos. So when it comes to the intervals of menstruation, so the rule is that if a woman has ordinarily a woman has to watch three different times associated with when her period might come. She has to watch the Hebrew day of the month, she has to watch the interval, and she has to watch 30 or 31 days, depending on the particular opinion that you follow. But let's say 30 days. So she has 3 different days that she needs to watch and avoid engaging in marital relations, because those are the times when her period may come. Now, if in fact her period comes on a regular basis, so that 3 times in a row, one of those intervals happens. So either, for example, 3 times in a row, it's the same day of the month, or 3 times in a row, it's a 33-day period or a 27-day period. Well, then she has now a chazaka, and the only time period that she needs to watch is the one associated with that chazaka. The issue is that once that chazaka gets broken, then now she has essentially 4 times that she needs to watch. She needs to watch the chazaka time, the most recent interval, and the day of the month, and day 30. So, but in any event, the point is bastos ditanan ein ha'isha. When again, now we turn to Samachayim and Aleph. Ein ha'isha kovas la beses, that her interval is not established. Ad shetikbe'ena shalosh pamim. It has to have 3 times in a row the same interval. Ve'in mitaheres min habeses, and we don't, and she still has to keep watching that date. So, for example, if she had a 3 periods in a row of 27 days, then she has a period of 29 days the next time. Well, then the following month, she needs to watch the following days. She needs to watch day 27 because she's still stuck with her veses with the original chazaka, and she has to watch 29 days, and she has to watch 30 days, and she has to watch the day of the month. So she ends up having to watch 4 different times. But when does she stop having to watch 27 days? So once she's gone 3 months without the same interval, well, then that will undermine the original chazaka, and therefore she will no longer be subject to it. So again, that shows that chazaka, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, is the way we follow when it comes to a nida. All right, so that's case number 3. And case number 4 is shor hamuad. We'd say that a bull is not considered a muad, which will change its liability from one in which the damages are split between the damaged and the damager, but rather will be one in which the damager, the owner of the damaging bull, is going to be fully liable. It needs to be testified about 3 different times. And so once it's testified about 3 different times, well, then it's considered a muad, and as a result, the liability will be increased. So the bottom line is what we've seen is that it depends. If somebody asks you how many times of repetition does it take to create a chazaka, the proper answer is both a machlokes and it depends. It's a machlokes between Rebbe, who says 2, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who says 3. And in terms of the way we paskin, it depends. It depends what category we're talking about when it comes to marriage and to treating somebody as a very wicked person that deserves effectively death by the hands of the court. Well, then 2 is sufficient. Whereas when it comes to a woman's menstrual cycle and when it comes to a damaging bull, in both of those cases, we require 3. So, okay, so now we're going to talk about something new. And so now we have a brisa. Again, same basic category about a woman without children. So Tana Rabbanan, Nisus Larishon, a woman married her first husband below Hayu Labanim, and she didn't have any children, Lashani below Hayu Labanim. And the second marriage also, she didn't have any children, Lashlishi Lo Tinasei. She should not marry a third. This is obviously consistent with our Mishnah. Elulamisha Yesh Labanim. When it comes to the third husband, she should only marry somebody who already has children, because then there's no issue with respect to her being not having any children, but her being potentially barren. And so Nisis Lamisha Ein Laban. What happens if she did marry somebody without children? Teitze below Ksuba. She can get she must be divorced, and there's no Ksuba payment. There's no obligation to pay the Ksuba. And Tosfos says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down in the widest lines of Tosfos, Nira Lari, the Bishalo Hikirba Iri. It's a situation where the husband didn't know that she was in this category, and therefore it's considered like a false sale agreement, meaning the husband thought that he was marrying somebody who's able to have children, and it turns out she's not able to have children. So that is of marriage under false pretenses, and so as a result, we're going to say that the husband can divorce her without paying the ksuba, So now based on all that, they're going to ask a bunch of questions. Question number 1, Nisus L'Shlishi, she gets married to the third one, below Hayula Banim, and she did not in fact have children. So Malu Tibaua Hana Kamai. What happens to the first 2? Let's say she goes through and she ends up being married to the third husband, and she's married to him for 10 years and she doesn't have any children. Can the first 2 husbands ask for their money back? Because it turns out that it's not about them that they didn't have children. It's about her that they didn't have children. Mimatsu Amrila, can they say to her, Igle Milza de Atu de Gamrat? Can we say that it's you, that you're the one who resulted in our not having children, and so as a result, we shouldn't have to pay you your ksuba. We should get our money back because we already it turns out that you are the one who's not able to have children. Odilma matzis amrlahu hashtahu dukachishi. No, that's not a fair comparison. I'm now much older than when I started. And you can't compare the fact that I didn't have children with the third husband and to the fact that I didn't have children with the two of you. I've gotten older, and as a result, I am weaker. And so now I'm weak, and therefore I should be able to keep and even receive my ksuva payment. So mistabra. So the Gemara says, now she can say, it makes sense that we allow her to say that she's grown weak. So that's answer number one to question number one. Question number two, what happens now? She marries a fourth. And now she has children with the fourth husband. Now again, remember the third husband was allowed to divorce her without paying any ksuva. So Amrina law. So what happens in that situation? So the first proposed answer is it's better that you be quiet than you speak, is what we tell her. Why? Because Dematzi Amarla, Ana Adata, Dahachi Lo Girashtich, right? If we're worried that husband number three will say to her, listen, I wish I didn't divorce you. And indeed, I divorced you under false pretenses. I divorced you and didn't give you a ksuva because I thought you were barren. But now it turns out that you're not barren. And so I want to be remarried. I want to be married to you. And therefore the get that I gave you should not be considered valid. Well, that would be very bad, because now we already know she's had a new child, and she had a new child with husband number four. And if the marriage to husband number three is still in existence, well, then that child is not a born to husband number four. It's born to an affair on husband number three. And therefore that child would be a mamzer. That would be terrible. So as a result, we tell her, don't say anything. Maskiv la Rav Papa. Rav Papa says that can't be. Because if what you're saying is true, that really, in fact, there is this possibility that the husband number three could claim it was a false divorce, well, then shatka anan mishatkinan. If she's quiet, can we be quiet? Meaning the court in and of itself needs to be concerned about this problem. Meaning, if this in fact is the case, then because nimtza get batel, we're going to end up having a nullified divorce decree. Uvaneh mamzerin, and her children will be illegitimate. They'll be mamzers. So el amrina and hashdahu de brisa. So no, what we say is now is when she became healthy. So in fact, the divorce from husband number three is in fact a proper divorce, and is in fact a divorce of a woman who was barren, and therefore she does not get her ksuva. However, and now that she happens to have a child later, it's because she, Baruch Hashem, has become healthy again, and so now she was able to conceive, and so that way we don't have to worry about this issue of maybe the divorce wasn't a valid divorce. And so that is Rav Papa's explanation to address the second question. So now the Gemara takes a look and says, the implication again of everything that we've seen is that if the husband is infertile, then he needs to pay the ksuba. And if the wife is infertile, then she doesn't get the ksuba. So what happens when each spouse is blaming each other? So who Amar Mina? He says it's her fault. Vihi Amra Mine. And she says it's his fault. Amar Rabbi Amai Dvarim Shebeino Levena Ne'emenes, that when it comes to things that are private between him and her, she is the one who's believed. So b'taimamai, why do we believe her? He kaimala b'yoretz kachetz, because she knows whether his when he shoots his seed, whether it shoots out like an arrow. But he doesn't know, because she's the one who experiences it on the receiving end. He just knows that he came to climax, but he doesn't know what the ramification was of it, because the result of the climax was inside her. So as a result, she's the one who has a sense, and she'll have a better sense of whether or not the husband is fertile. Amr Ihu. Now the second case. Amr Ihu. The husband says, Ezel insiv itza ivdok nafshai. Here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to divorce you, but what I am going to do is I'm going to get a second wife, and I'm going to test whether the issue is with me or with you. And if I have a child with the second wife, well, then clearly the issue is with you. And so as a result, I'll be able to divorce you without having to pay the ksuba. So Rabbi Ami af bizo yotze b'itin ksuba. Rabbi Ami says, no, I'm going to force you to divorce your first wife and give her the ksuba. Why? Shani Omer kol hanoze isha al ishto. If somebody marries a second wife against the will of the first wife, yotze b'itin ksuba, he has to divorce her and give her a ksuba, pay her the ksuba that's associated with the divorce. Rava Amar noze adam kamen nashim al ishto. Behu de isle lemizaninhu, that ninhi, excuse me, and Rava disagrees. He says no. Actually, if he wants to do that, he can do that because he's allowed to marry as many women as he wants, as long as he can support them. Now, of course, this all happened. All these statements were prior to the Takana of Rabbeinu Gershom, and post the Takana of Rabbeinu Gershom, Ashkenazim at least do not engage in multiple marriages at the same time. At least men do not engage in multiple marriages at the same time. Of course, women never were allowed to engage in multiple marriages at the same time. Okay, so all right. So now we've dealt with that situation, and so now Hu Amar. What about the following situation? What if he says Aplat bego eser? You had a miscarriage within the last 10 years, and so as a result, I do not want to divorce you. Vehi Amra lo aplit. No, I didn't have a miscarriage. We have been married for 10 years. And I have not had a child, and I want to be divorced. I want to marry somebody else to potentially have a child with that person. So Amarebi Ami af bizo hi nemenes. Here as well, we're going to believe her. Why? Because the im isa tehipila. Because if in fact she had miscarried, nafsha ba'akarta lo machsaka. She's not going. If she could say that she is not in fact a barren woman, then she would prefer to say that. She would much prefer to be in the category of one who just had a miscarriage than somebody who is not able to have children. So as a result, we're going to believe her when she says, actually, I am an akara. I am a woman who's unable to have children. Hipila, or at least unable to have children with the first husband. Hipila. Now, if she in fact had miscarriages, a miscarriage, because she has 3 miscarriages. So now she has a chazaka of having miscarriages, and you can see obviously here we are paskening again like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, that you require 3 times. The various Rishonim go into the explanation as to why in this case we're going to follow Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. One opinion, the logical explanation is the fact that miscarriages are so common, especially for first pregnancies, that in fact we don't want the first one to really count. Unless we get to 3, then everybody will agree that there's a chazaka. In any event, the point is that now she has a chazaka of miscarriages, and so Hu Amar Apili Trey. Now, and therefore he's going to have to divorce her, as Rashi says in the 3rd line. The Yotze V'itin Ksuba Shemelo Zacha Libanot Mimena. That in fact there's a rule that if in fact she has now had 3 stillborn children, so then he needs to divorce her and give her the ksuba, because maybe she is only not able to have children with him, but if she were to marry somebody else, she would be able to have children. So Hu Amar Apili Trey. He says that I don't want to divorce you. You only had 2 miscarriages. He Amra Tlas, and she says no, I miscarried 3 times. So Amar Rav Yitzchak ben Elazar. There was in fact such a story. Amru he mena. And the people in the academy, in the yeshiva, said that we believe her. Dim isa delo apla nafsha benifle lo machsaka. Again, if she could avoid saying about herself that she was prone to stillborn children, well, then she would do so. And so as a result, in that instance, we will believe her and say that she is and that she has to be divorced because she has had 3 miscarriages with this husband. So now that brings us to the next Mishnah, and so the next Mishnah notes the following debate regarding the mitzvah of pru'urvu. So we've been highlighting the importance, and we highlighted the what do you need to, how many children one needs to have to fulfill the mitzvah, and now we turn to who is obligated, and we have a fundamental disagreement. Ha'ish mitzuva al periyurivya abalo ha'isha. The Tanna Kama says that the man is obligated, not the woman. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer al shnehem hu Omer, that no, both of them are commanded, because what does the Torah say in the very beginning of Bereshis? Vayivarech osam, that God blessed Adam and Chava, Elokim, God blessed them. Vayomer lahem Elokim, pru urvu, go have children. So as a result, we see that in fact that it was said to the 2 of them. It's in plural, pru urvu. So therefore, that shows that in fact we need to that the obligation is on both men and women. So Mina Hanimili, the Gemara wants to know, where do we know this from? So the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Ilah Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon Amar Kra Umilu es haaretz v'kiv shua. Right, that it says Umilu es haaretz v'kiv shua, that in fact they should fill the land and conquer it. Well, ish darko lichbosh. Who is it that does the conquering? It's the man. The ain't isha darko lichbosh, but not the woman. So as a result, clearly that's the explanation, that it shows that it's only men that are obligated, not women. Well, adarabba, the kivshua tarti mashma. 1 second. Just as we said, pru or revu were both, and this, of course, this command is in that same pasuk, right? The pasuk says, "Vayavarech osam Elokim, vayomer lahem Elokim, pru or revu umilu es haaretz v'kivshua." And so there we say, we see that they, in fact, both the pru'urvu and the kivshua are together. And just like pru'urvu is a plural verb, so too the kivshua is a plural verb. So that suggests that it should be on both men and women. So Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak v'chavsha. No, it is true that we pronounce the word v'chivshuha, but in fact, if you look at the Torah and see how the word is written, it is not written with an avav, it's written without avav, and that's so it's written as if it's pronounced v'chavsha, that it would be that he should conquer it. So therefore, it suggests that it's only on men. So that's explanation number 1 for how we know that it's only men that are obligated in pru'urvu. And Rav Yosef Amar Mehacha. Rav Yosef says, no, we can look at another verse that is later in Sefer Bereshis. Ani kel shakai pray urvei. That when Hashem talks to later in the Torah, Hashem to Yaakov, Hashem says, you should be fruitful and multiply. And there, the mitzvah is in the singular. The lokam are pru'urvu. It does not say pru'urvu. And so as a result, that shows that the singular is the commandment is only on the men. Well, 1 second, you might be thinking, well, what about that first pasuk where it does say pru'urvu? Well, great to tell you that that's the question that Tosfos asks. If you take a look at the Tosfos that begins a few lines down in the narrow lines, the low comma pru'urvu, afal gaf to Adam Arishon comma pru'urvu. Well, what about when it says pru'urvu to Adam Arishon? So hahu bracha ba'alma below mitzvah. That was just a blessing. God was blessing them that Adam and Chava, they should be able to have the children, not that they were commanded to have the children. So Rabbi Elah, Mishum Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon. So now we had one statement of Rabbi Elah, Mishum Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon. So now we're going to have two more such statements. So statement, and each of them are going to have interesting and important lessons for us that we can take in our real life. So kashem shemitzvah al adam lomar davar nishma, just as when one is commanded to rebuke somebody, the command is that it will only to do so if the rebuke is going to be accepted. You shouldn't say something that won't be accepted. Meaning, don't go up to somebody on the street and say, who's Jewish and not observant, and say, you should observe Shabbos, because those words are not going to be accepted. You need to engage with them and get them to a place where the words will be accepted. It's not the right attitude to just rebuke somebody. You need to rebuke somebody only if their words are going to be accepted. Rabbi Abba Omer Chova. It goes much more than that. Not only is there a mitzvah to not say words, but one is obligated to avoid saying such words, because Shenemar al tochach leitz pen yisna echa, because we have a command. It says in Mishlei that don't rebuke the scoffer, the joker, because he will hate you. Right? Only rebuke the wise man, because the wise man is going to love you. So again, we see that in fact there is an absolute obligation that you not rebuke somebody who is not going to take the rebuke well. So for Rabbi Elah, Mishum Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. So now statement number 3 that Rabbi Elah said in the name of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, Motor Lola Adam Lushanos B'Dvar HaShalom. In order to make peace, you're allowed to change things around. You don't have to be as truthful as you can be. Shene'amar Avicha Tziva, because Yosef's brothers told him that your father told us, commanded, Kotomar li Yosef, Ana Sana, etc., that you need to forgive your brothers. But Yaakov never told them that. They literally made it up. And why did they make it up? Because they wanted to have peace. And so when we're trying to make peace, you can stretch the truth. Rabbi Nassan Omer mitzvah. Not only are you permitted to do it, it is actually a command to do it. And how do we know? Because God commands Shmuel to do it. Shneamar Vayomer Shmuel Eke Lech V'Shama Shaul V'Hargani. When Shmuel is told, listen, you need to go and anoint David as Melech. So Shmuel was worried. Shmuel says, what happens if Shaul hears about what I'm trying to do? What's going to happen to me? He's going to kill me. And so Hashem tells him, okay, this is what you do. Take an animal with you, and you'll say that you're going to bring an offering. And so as a result, that's why you're traveling. You're traveling to bring an offering. So we see that Hashem, God actually commands Shmuel to tell something that isn't true in order to maintain peace. So Debei Rabbi Shmuel Tana. So and then in the Academy of Rabbi Shmuel, they taught the following brisa: Gadol HaShalom. Peace is so important. She'ava Kadosh Baruch Hu Shinabo. Even God changes what happened in order to reflect peace. Because what did it say when Sarah was worried that she was too old to have children? She said, "Ba'adoni zakein." She said, "I'm too old, and my husband is too old." But when God repeats that to Abraham, all that God refers to is Va'ani zakanti. She says that she was too old. She doesn't say that Abraham was too old, because why should God essentially create strife between husband and wife? And so as a result, that is highlighting the tremendous importance associated with peace. Okay, so we now learn how important peace is and how important it is to only rebuke when one can be heard. So again, similar themes that are associated with that. But now we turn to the end of our Mishnah, where we had the second opinion. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer, we quote that line, and again, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka said that in fact women are obligated in the mitzvah of Purubu. So Itmar. So regarding this, we say Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Chad Amar halacha ka Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, Chad Amar ein halacha ka Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. One says that the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, namely that we do say women are obligated, and one says no, the halacha is like the Tanna Kama, who says only men are obligated. So to stayim the Rabbi Yochanan the Amar ein halacha. From the following story, it would seem that one could derive the fact that Rabbi Yochanan was the one who said that the halacha is not like Rabbi Yochanan Broka. To Yosef Rabbi Abahu, because Rabbi Abahu was once sitting, the Ka'amar Mishmei to Rabbi Yochanan halacha, and he was saying that the halacha, according to Rabbi Yochanan, is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. But Adarinu, Rabbi Amar Ami Rabbi Asi Lapayu, and Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi turned away. They couldn't look at him. They were so upset by the fact that he was misquoting Rabbi Yochanan. The Ika de Amri and other people said that it wasn't Rabbi Abahu who was sitting, but Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar, Ba'adrinhu Rabbi Ami Rabbi Asi La'apayu. And it was and the same people were turning away, but it was Rabbi Chia bar Abba who was making the statement. And Amar Rav Papa Bishlam Alaman de Amar Rabbi Abahu Amra. It makes sense to say that it was Rabbi Abahu who was misquoting Rabbi Yochanan because Mishum Kavod Bei Kaisar Lo Amru Velo Midi. That why did Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi not say anything and they only turned away? It was because Rabbi Abahu was a member of the royal household. And so as a result, that is why they weren't going to directly disagree with him. But Elalamanda Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amra, but according to the one who says it was Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Lame relay Lo Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. They should have just said Rabbi Yochanan never said that. So maybe according to the second view, maybe we don't have a great proof. But according to the first view, it seems that we have a very good proof that it was Rabbi Yochanan who says Ein halacha ka Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Okay, so my hava Allah. What do we decide in the end here? Because we've cited two opinions. We cited one opinion that says that the halacha is men and women are obligated, and one that says that it's only men. So Tashma, the Rabbi Acha bar Chanina, Rabbi Abahu, Rabbi Asi, Uvda Hava Kamei Rabbi Yochanan b'Chanishta to Kesari. There was a situation where somebody came in the synagogue in Kesar to Rabbi Yochanan. And as Rashi highlights, there was a woman, and she wanted to be divorced because she didn't have any children. And Rabbi Yochanan says he's got to divorce her and he's got to pay the ksuba. Now, if you think that in fact the woman's not obligated in the mitzvah, ksuba maya vidya, why would Rabbi Yochanan have told her that he needs to give her ksuba? So we think, especially because it's Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Chanina, in the name of Rabbi Abahu, who again was the one who said that Rabbi Yochanan was the one who said that the mitzvah was on both men and women, and then others disagreed with him. So we can see this is the story that enabled him to think that that was the case. But now we're going to say that that in fact not necessarily true. No, and the proof that you just brought that in fact Rabbi Yochanan said that the mitzvah is on both men and women is not a good proof. Dilma b'va machmas taina. Maybe she had another claim that enabled her to receive the ksuba. Why? What would that other claim be? Kiahida asai l'kamei de Rabbi Ami, like the one who came to Rabbi Ami. Again, Rabbi Ami was one of the ones who turned around and showed that he disagreed with Rabbi Abahu's statement regarding Rabbi Yochanan. What happened? So Rabbi Ami was told, Amrale, she said to Rabbi Ami, Havli ksuba, I want a ksuba. I want my divorce and a ksuba because we have not had children. Amrla zil, loma pakta. You cannot insist on it because there is no mitzvah on you. And so as a result, that's why you can get divorced if you want, but you're going to have to give up your ksuba. So Amrale, she said back to him, 1 second, Mesiva Dila, my tehevi Allah dahach itza. 1 second. This old woman, namely me, when I become old, what's going to happen to me? Meaning, who's going to take care of me? And so as a result, that argument, Amar Rabbi Ami says back, Kiha vadai kafinan. Oh, excellent point. You're in fact right. We need to force the husband to give a ksuva. Namely, so the point is that although in fact there is no obligation on a woman to engage in to have children, we say that even if she has not had children after 10 years, she does have the right to a divorce. She does have the right to receive her ksuba, because we want her to be able to marry someone else so that she can have children if she wants to, and thereby have somebody to take care of her when she gets old. And Hahida Asay Likamei de Rav Nachman. And we have a similar story with respect to Rav Nachman. Amar La Lo Mipakta. Again, he initially told her, you don't get to get your ksuva because you're the one because you don't have an obligation to engage in procreation, and so as a result, you can get divorced, but you're not going to get your ksuva. Amrulay, she said back to him, Lo bayach itza chutra lida. What am I going to do for a cane when I get old? Umar lekvura, and who's going to give a shovel to bury me? Namely, I need somebody to take care of me when I'm old and I die. So Amar Rav Nachman then says back, Kiha vadai kafina. You're absolutely right. We need to force the divorce. So Yehuda v'Chizkiah to Omim Hayu. So we have a case where Yehuda and Chizkiah were twins, and now we're going to really prove the fact that in fact there is no obligation on women, which is the basic outcome that we have from this Gemara. So although there's a debate, the general consensus within halacha is that women are not obligated in this mitzvah. So what happened? Rabbi Chia had twin sons, Yehuda and Chizkiah. Echad nigmara tzurasa l'sof tisha, ve'echad nigmara tzurasa l'tchilas shiva. That there were when they were being carried, and the wife was, and his wife's name we'll find out in just a moment is Yehudis. When Yehudis was carrying these two twins, one of them was ready to be born after 6 months and a day, meaning the first day into the 7th month. Which there are two in halacha. There's a view that you can have two lengths of pregnancy. You can have a 7-month long pregnancy, and you can have a 9-month long pregnancy. And once you have 7 months, even 6 months in a day is sufficient for that child. But for other children, they need to have 9 months of gestation. And in the same womb, you had one child who was ready to be born and another child who was not ready to be born. And so as a result, it must have been tremendously uncomfortable for the wife. So Yehudis de Bisu de Rabbi Chia. So Yehudis was the wife of Rabbi Chia. Havalat Sar Leda, and she had such severe pains as a result of them, because one of them was already to be born in the 7th month, and one of them needed the full 9 months. And so as a result, it's not clear, did she have the first child after the 7 months and then a second one 2 or 3 months later, or did she have to wait and essentially have that pain inside her of a child essentially eager to be born for 3 months? Not completely clear. In any event, Shanai Mana, she changed her clothes, i.e., she disguised herself. And she comes before her husband Rabbi Chia and Amra. It's a mepakta apriya rivia. Do we say that women are obligated in Pru-Revu? Amar Allah, lo. In the end, we say women are not obligated. So Azla ishtiya samam de akrasa. And so she found a potion that made her sterile and drank it. L'sof igla milsa. And eventually, of course, her husband Rabbi Chia found out. Amar Allah, he told her, Iku yaladet li chada kurasya achrisa. I wish you would have given me one more wombful of children before doing this. The Amar Mar, because it was said Yehuda v'Chizkiah ache. This couple, Rabbi Chia and Yehuda, they had 2 sets of twins. They had twin brothers Yehuda and Chizkiah, Pazi v'Tavi, and they had Pazi and Tavi achvasa. They were the twin sisters, and so he assumed that there would be another set of twins. course, at the same time, one can understand why she may have wanted to avoid it, because she'd already had two sets of twins, and she felt that there was a chazaka with two sets of twins, that maybe she would have a third set of twins, and she would be very uncomfortable. So in any event, all right. So the bottom line is that we see from this story that women are not obligated. Now the Gemara concludes by challenging that and suggesting, well, one second, we have another story that suggests that maybe women are obligated. V'lo mipakte, is it really true that women aren't commanded? V'ha'amar Rav Acha bar Rav Katina Amar Rav Yitzchak Ma'isa be'isha achas shechetzia shivcha b'chetzia ben chpas. There was a woman who was half slave, half free. So two partners had bought her as a slave, and one of them had freed her. Now, it's important to remember, and we saw this way back, I believe, at the beginning of Maseches Chagiga, the story of the debate between Hillel and Shammai regarding a man who was in this situation. And in that situation, Hillel initially said, okay, so the guy works for the master for one day and then works for himself for another day. And Shammai said back to him, you've done a great job of solving the problem for the master, but you've not done anything for the slave himself, for the half slave, half free person, because he can't marry anybody. And so as a result, Shammai says that in fact, you need to force the master, the half master, to free the other half. And the slave then has to work off the payment in order to pay the guy back. But we need to enable him to fulfill the mitzvah of pruruvu. And indeed, Hillel, as a result of that argument, comes back and changes his mind and says, yes, I agree with you. You are right. And so, and we in fact force the person. And what was the basis of the forcing? It was based on the fact that we say that this half free, half slave person has a mitzvah of pruruvu. And yet we see right here that we have a woman in the same situation. The kafu was Rabbah, and they forced the master to free her. So that she could go free. Presumably, the reason that they did so is in order to have her be able to marry and have children. So we see that women are subject to the commandment of having children. So Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak minhag hefker naguba. No, you are not right. You are making a wrong inference in connection with this. That in fact, it was not because she's obligated to do the mitzvah, but rather what was happening as a result. The problem was, take a look in Rashi, minhag hefker naguba, lefishalo haisa yechol linasei, because she was not able to marry anyone. Haisa mefkeres atzma, she allowed herself to have relations with anybody who was interested in her, because she was not able to marry anyone. And so as a result, since she was not allowed to marry anyone, she couldn't be with anyone long term. So as a result, she allowed herself to have relations with anybody. That was not a good situation. The chotimba, and so people were sinning with her. Lefika kafu es rabba l'shakraha. And so as a result, that is why Rav Acha, Rav Yitzchak, said that in the story of a woman who was half free and half slave, that they forced the half slave owner to free her because they wanted to make sure that she would act in a proper manner. And so, God willing, tomorrow we will pick up with I'm sorry that I didn't scroll my screen in connection with some of the learning that we were doing today. But if you want more, let me know. I'm happy to share it with you. But stay tuned tomorrow as we begin now the seventh parak. So we say Hadron Alach Haba Al Yevimto, Hadron Alach Haba Al Yevimto, Hadron Alach Haba Al Yevimto, and we will, God willing, begin the seventh parak of Yevamot tomorrow. And tomorrow we will pick up a topic that we touched on some time ago, namely what allows when a woman marries a Kohen, she becomes able to eat truma. And so we're going to talk about all the aspects of how that works, God willing, starting tomorrow.
Thank you, Rabbi. You have a good day.
Thank you so much. You as well.